In today's video, we're going to talk about the one concept you need to get better at anything. But we talk real estate here, so the one concept that you'll need to get better at real estate. And no, it's not about hustle or morning routines or affirmations, nor will this concept make you millions overnight. But this one concept, this one important concept is progressive overload. Now, if you don't know what that is, don't worry, I'll explain. But first, hi, my name is Sabrina, and I'm failing forward in real estate to build a more durable life. And progressive overload is the concept that has really helped me to dial in on my real estate business and also quiet some of the negative self-talk gremlins that creep up every once in a while. So in this video, I'm going to talk about what progressive overload is and why it applies to real estate, and the 3 core fundamentals of progressive overload that you can use to accomplish any real estate goal that you have. So what is progressive overload? It's an idea that I'm actually using from the fitness industry, where you add weight or reps over time and your body adapts to that new stress, and then you can add a little bit more weights or reps. And so the idea is that over time, you kind of have this build up, adaptation, and repeat, right? So you add a little bit more, you adapt to that new stress, and then you can go to the next level. And since this term comes from the fitness industry, let's do the explanation in the gym. So a fitness example would be, if you start today squatting 50 pounds, the goal is not to squat 100 pounds tomorrow, but to slowly and gradually increase the reps, increase the weight over time until you can squat that 100 pounds, right? So you would start with something that is more moderate, and then slowly, bit by bit, over time, you can add more and more weight to the bar, maybe adding in more reps. And then over time, when you look back, you'll just be surprised at how much stronger you are, how much more capable you are, how much more weight that you can lift from maybe when you started months or years ago. But the whole idea is slow, continuous, kind of almost relentless, right, progress, right? Like I'll add a little more, I'll adapt. I'll add a little more to that and I'll adapt. So this same process of like an incremental change, adaptation, and repeat applies to real estate as well. So I'll even take my journey up until this point. You know, I started with a house hacking strategy and then moved into a traditional rental and then moved into house flipping. So each one was a little bit more risky than the last. And I did this over years. Each time learning something new, struggling a little bit or a lot, but then adapting and leveling up to the next new challenge. But progressive overload is not just about more weight, more weight, more weight. You can also think about it as like improved technique, better efficiency with your movements. And so the same also can be applied to real estate, right? So maybe you are doing the same strategy. Maybe you've just committed to traditional rentals or wholesaling or something. But each time you learn something new, you get a bit better, you're a little bit more efficient, you understand this process better. That is still progressive overload because that's still a kind of adaptation. And so as you make these tweaks and changes and really get dialed in and better, that's also you making progress and progressively overloading your process as you move from one deal transaction to the next. So there are 3 core fundamentals to really having progressive overload be effective. And this is going to make you unstoppable at reaching any goal that you have in real estate. Okay, so core fundamental number 1 is that progressive overload is boring. It is boring and repetitive. Progressive overload is about doing simple movements over and over and over again with a little more weight, 1 extra rep, so that you get that adaptation so that you can level up. So this means when we're applying this to real estate, The idea here is to be boring. Focus on one strategy, one approach, because if you hop around and jump and do all of these things, it's really hard to see that progress. So remember here, boredom is a feature, not a bug. That is what allows you to get the reps in. So if you find yourself hopping from different strategies, listening to a podcast about creative financing one day, then flipping, and then traditional, and then, oh no, maybe co-living, it's going to be really hard to look back and see progress if you're not kind of doing that, staying in that one lane and really focusing in so that you can get in those reps, so that you can learn, so that you can make those adaptations, so that you can level up. Core fundamental number 2 is track your progress. If you didn't track it, it probably didn't happen. So just like when you're in the gym, you go and you write down in your log, what was my weight this week? How many reps? Because that's how you know where was I last time, so that I can know if it's time to level up, right? If it's time to add more weight or add an additional rep. So as we're thinking about real estate, tracking it, whether it's tracking your offers, tracking your follow-up, tracking how many agents that you've reached out to, track your progress. So for example, even if you're not at the point of making offers, but you're just trying to practice, you're trying to build the muscle of analysis, track how many deals are you analyzing, right? Over 1 week, 2 weeks, a month, 3 months, and watch how your time at analyzing really cuts down, right? But the point is, you've got to track what you are doing. If there is a key metric or a thing that you're focusing on that's boring and repetitive, write it down each time. Track your progress. So core fundamental number 3 is rest and recovery. It sounds super cool to just keep piling on weight and reps, but if you do that in the gym over time, you are going to get burnt out or hurt yourself. And the same thing is true in real estate. But you also need seasons to regroup, to stabilize rentals, to improve cash flow, to tighten up bookkeeping, to build cash reserves. All of these things are also important. Just constantly build is what can burn out a lot of people in real estate and have the equivalent of injuries or, negative financial choices that take people out of the game for a while. So you want to make sure that you're also building in times and seasons for rest, recovery, and not just build, go. Okay, so here's an example of what this progressive overload concept looks like for me right now. I am working on agent outreach, and my goal is 5 agent calls every day. That's it. 5 quick calls to see if the agent is interested in working with a rental investor, because all agents aren't. And if they are, I send them a quick follow-up email with my buy box. If you're interested in a tool to help you build your own buy box, that's linked in the description below. It makes it super easy so that you can fill that out and be able to share that with agents, wholesalers, or whoever really quick and easy. That link, again, is in the description. So if they say yes, I'll send them over my buy box statement, and that's it. And I track all of it. So I track the call, if we actually talked, if I left them a voicemail, or if they told me that they're not interested. All of that gets tracked. I know how many calls I'm making per week. I know how many people actually connected with me. I know how many emails that I've sent because they were interested in the potential to work with me. And so, as you can see, this is pretty boring, right? 5 calls every day, track it. 5 calls every day, track it. That is it. It's nothing fancy. It's not glamorous. It's not over the top. But I've been able to consistently reach out to and connect with dozens of agents through this very steady method. And here's the other part that's important. So I set 5 because that is what fits into my schedule. That's what I can deal with in terms of work. That's what I can deal with in terms of the kind of anxiety, because cold calling is still new to me and I'm not super comfortable with it. So I still get all jittery and butterflies and sweaty a little bit. And so 5 is the goal. And so it's this 5 and track. But this idea of rest and recovery was really important because one day I decided to double that and tried to make 10 agent calls because I had some extra time. And I was so exhausted from just the additional angst of making those calls that I just didn't call for the next like day or two. And so by trying to go too fast, trying to make too big of a leap, I took myself out, right? And so it's just about that steady progress until you adapt. Because then maybe I can go up to 6 or 7 calls. And then after doing that consistently, then go up to 10, right? But it's not about making these like really big jumps. It's all this incremental progress with adaptation, and then you level up. So that's my idea. Progressive overload, I think, is the key concept, because in real estate, the winner is not who can sprint the race the fastest. It is about who can stay in the longest, who can build up the muscles and the skills and the endurance necessary to be able to build a business long term, have a portfolio long term. Like, that is actually what is required. Anyone who is doing cool tactics one day and doing something else the next day, those are not the people who last. So let me know in the comments, what is going to be the thing that you are focused on? What's going to be your boring, repetitive activity that you are going to track? And what are going to be the ways that you're going to make sure that you're building in some seasons where you can take rest? So let me know in the comments, and I will see you in the next one.